Joining us now on Thunder at the Fair, at the Fan, is on the Fan, I should say, is Todd Rosiak, Milwaukee Brewers beat reporter for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Todd, thanks so much for jumping on today.
What's up, Mitch? How we doing?
We're doing great. We're at the fair. It's our last day here, so we're kind of bummed. So we're trying to eat everything that we missed out on the first few days. Do you hit up the fair at all? Do you have any memories of the fair? Have you faired it up in your past?
I absolutely love the fair. Did not make it this year, unfortunately. But fun little fact about myself: when I was a kid, I grew up very near a farm that used to produce all the corn for the New Berlin corn rolls over there. So I can't even imagine how many tons of sweet corn from ages probably 10, 11 up through age 16, 17, and drove it into the fair and all that stuff. So I know it's this farm that I used to work for is no longer in existence, unfortunately, and that business has kind of moved on to somebody else. But anytime I walk past the New Berlin Lions stand over there, I always have a couple of ears and raise them up and salute and think about the good old days running through the field.
You know what? I'm going to grab an ear of corn on my way out today just to respect that, because, I mean, that's one of the great long-standing traditions here at the fair is the corn, for sure. And that's really cool that you were, kind of personally involved in that when you were a kid, and that gives you a great connection to the fair. Love that. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun and, kind of a proud thing to be just a little tiny part of it. And then, the other memory is just going down the giant slide, going on the rides, eating all the bad food. It was a blast. And, now that I'm an adult, we don't do the rides anymore. We don't do the slide, but we definitely eat the bad food.
Yes, we
by
do.
Bad, I mean bad for you, but tasting really good, of course. And, enjoying seeing all the animals and just kind of getting the exercise, the steps in, people watching. It is a absolute gem event of the summer for sure in Milwaukee.
It really is. One of my favorite people watching things is just to see all the different jerseys and all, and just you'll see, obviously there's a lot, I've seen a lot of the Brew Crew 34 Giannis jersey, which a lot of people got in that giveaway. But then you'll see random other teams or guys who retired 20, 30 years ago. And it's just it's just fun to see the mixture. But I will say, Todd, tons and tons of Brewers gear this year, which comes as no surprise as the Brewers have the best record in baseball. We had Rick Schlesinger on earlier today, and I asked him, what's your job like when you're the president of business operations for the team with the best record in the league? So I'm going to ask you a similar but different question. What's it like for you being a beat reporter for the team with the best record in Major League Baseball?
That's a great question. Very a unique question, I'll say. It's fun. It's fun even on the worst days when the Brewers are in the midst of, if they're in the midst of a 10-game losing streak, whatever the case may be. I'm getting paid to go out to the ballpark every day and to cover baseball and to watch baseball and, travel around with the team. It's great. But when the team is winning and when the team is on a heater, the way the team has been the last couple of months, it's incredible. The work certainly increases with the increase in attention. I would venture to say that, the Journal-Sentinel as a whole produces more Brewers content than anybody out there. And it's not just me. It's Kurt Hogue. It's J.R. Radcliffe. We have a whole team of people who are doing this on a daily basis. But that workload increases even more, and that's a good thing with the increase in attention. And then you're getting, it's not uncommon. I'm getting requests pretty much every day from media outlets everywhere. New York, I got one from Florida the other day, Canada. It's unusual in that, these bigger markets or out of market areas are all of a sudden zeroing in and hey, the Brewers are, for whatever reasons, there's many, that they're the best team in baseball. It's a great story, without the home run hitters. They're doing it in unconventional ways, but there's definitely been interest across baseball, and the national media has certainly caught on. So, long-winded way of saying it's been fun, it's been interesting, and I'm sure the ride's going to be even more interesting here coming down the stretch.
Absolutely. Todd Rosiak, Brewers beat reporter for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, joining us here on The Fan. What have you gleaned or learned from some of those other markets or some of those bigger cities, some of those more national viewpoint on what's going on with the Brewers. What have you gleaned from them about what they think is going on in Milwaukee? How they feel that they actually have to pay attention now to a team that even when they've been good in past years, they haven't really taken the time to pay attention. What has that been like, having that type of out of market experience?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because they're so taken aback that a team that has a small payroll, that doesn't hit a bunch of homers, that does it in unconventional ways, has had so much success. And it's not just a 1 year or a 2 year thing. We all know the run that the Brewers have been on over the last 7, 8, 9 years of either being in the playoffs or being real close. The playoff success, that's another discussion. But just the fact that they're winning divisions, they're getting in. While not really spending any money, it's very interesting, and especially to the large markets. And then, there's always the questions about, how are they doing it, which is definitely, understandable and legitimate. I feel like in a lot of ways, the Brewers have kind of become what the Tampa Bay Rays were several years back, where they're doing it with kind of unorthodox ways, working the margins, as they like to say, and it's not really that far of a stretch, because when you look at Matt Arnold, where he came from the Rays. And, he unabashedly admits that a lot of what he does and a lot of what, the success that they've had is stuff that he's carried over from Tampa Bay. So it's just a cool story in the respect that, did anybody know who Pat Murphy was really before last year when he won Manager of the Year? I would think he's front runner again this year. Matt Arnold, I would think would be front runner again for Executive of the Year. They're doing it in so many different ways, and so many people with the organization, aside from, I would say, Christian Yelich. Miz has jumped on the scene now, but so many of the guys in the organization and on the team are anonymous. And it kind of creates a little bit of a mystery to those who don't follow the team regularly.
Todd Rosiak with us on Thunder at the Fair. So when you talk about some of those anonymous guys, who is on your radar right now? I mean, because I feel like we spend hours and hours on local sports talk radio breaking down everyone in this lineup, everyone in the bullpen, the starting rotation, because everyone is interesting. Everyone has a story. Everyone came out of nowhere or came unexpectedly to the success of this season. So who is kind of like right now, who has caught your attention in a way that like you're focusing on them today, August 8th?
I mean, you said it right, Mitch. There are so many different guys who fit that bill, but I think right now, as we speak, Isaac Collins. I mean, this guy, the incredible story that he is. He was a minor league Rule 5 pick a couple years ago. As anonymous as it gets, never expected to make it to the major leagues. Those guys never are. But he makes his major league debut at the Brewers late last year. Was on the playoff roster, didn't play. And Pat Murphy said it earlier this year. He was really very close to the chopping block in spring training this year. Gets an opportunity early, worked his way into the lineup, and now he's indispensable. He's hitting fifth.
Crazy.
He's in serious consideration for Rookie of the Year at this point. Switch hitter, tremendous defensively, just fits that Brewers mold to a T as far as how he plays. Hard-nosed, undersized, just does everything really well, and just a tremendous story. So, to me, he's one of the biggest scouting successes of many that the Brewers have had in recent years.
Todd Rosiak, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, beat reporter for the Milwaukee Brewers, joining us here on The Fan. And it's interesting, we had the play-by-play guy for the Nashville Sounds on a couple weeks ago, and he was saying, like, at the beginning of last year, at the beginning of 2024, when they got Collins, they didn't really know who he was. Like, they didn't know what to make of him. And he had a nice season there, and he's become what he is. Is it wrong? Like, I'm looking at the betting odds. We are partnered with the Potawatomi Sportsbook. So I'm looking at the National League Rookie of the Year odds. And Drake Baldwin's the favorite right now at minus 200. Isaac Collins plus 1,800. Augustin Ramirez and then Jacob Mizorowski's up to plus 2,500. Of course, because he's on the injured list right now. Is it wrong that, like, last night I'm watching Braves highlights and I see Baldwin homer twice, and I'm cheering against Drake Baldwin in early August. Like he's from Madison and he's probably a good kid. I don't know, but like I kind of want him to like have some sort of slump over the next month, so that is it wrong that I'm rooting? I'm rooting for Isaac Collins, but I'm also rooting against Drake Baldwin. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong, and I think it's also right that you did mention that Drake Baldwin. I did interview him when the Braves were in town in June. Very nice young man, tremendous player. He's got the Madison ties, of course. So you always want to see a home state guy do good. But Isaac Collins, the story is just incredible, and I think he's obviously been on a heater himself the last 5 or 6 weeks. But as the Brewers stay in contention, as they continue to play well, if they continue to lead the major leagues, in terms of record and all that stuff, and Collins continues to put up those numbers, that's going to do nothing but bolster his case. I think he gets into double-digit homers, which certainly seems within the realm of possibility, drives in a few more runs, and the Brewers, continue to be in that discussion nationally. I certainly think he's going to be right in there, right in the mix. And a couple weeks ago, I think, Jacob Mizorowski certainly would have been, the guy that I would have chosen. But now with the IL stint and the fact that the Brewers, I think, are really going to kind of, ramp back his workload in an attempt to keep him, within that innings range as they head into the postseason, I think that's going to kind of knock him down a little bit. So one way or the other, the Brewers have not had a Rookie of the Year since 2020 when Devin Williams won it. It's cool to see they have a couple guys in the running this year.
Well, you just mentioned ramping down Mizorowski's innings, which obviously the Brewers did kind of artificially by putting him on the injured list and giving him these 2 weeks off. Do you think there's a chance he's in the bullpen when he comes back at some point? Do you think he starts, but he's once a week as opposed to once every 5 days? What do you think his role looks like, certainly in August, but then into September and potentially the postseason?
Yeah, I think those discussions are still kind of going on internally. I have a hard time believing that they would utilize him coming out of the bullpen. I think they want to keep things as normal as possible for him. So It would not be surprising to me. I think he's going to continue starting games once he's back, but it would not be surprising to me to see them, keep him at like a 4-inning limit, something like that, just to kind of keep him again, within that range that they want to keep him in, and keep him as fresh and as healthy as possible heading down the stretch. Because let's be honest, the postseason is the most important thing, and to have him, hitting on all cylinders and healthy and confident going into the playoffs is going to be a very important thing for this team.
Absolutely. Todd Rosiak, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, joining us here on 1250 AM, 105.7 FM. We're at Thunder at the Fair, presented to you by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. I know you have an article up, I think that was posted earlier this morning, so today in the Journal-Sentinel, about Brandon Lockridge. Talk about, I don't think anybody, especially casual fans, had even known his name before, and then his first, he's literally traded on the trade deadline and is leading off that next game. How is how's that fit been? Is he, Churio's on the injured list, so we don't know what that's going to look like when he comes back. But what has Brandon Lockridge brought to this team, and how has he fit in on a team that we talk so much about culture and friendship and camaraderie?
Yeah, I mean, as I wrote, had Jackson Churio not strained his hamstring, who knows? Would Brandon Lockridge even be on the Brewers right now? Maybe the Brewers would have, looked at somebody else or acquired somebody else in exchange for Nestor Cortez. You never know, but, Lockridge is within the fold now. And by all accounts, everybody that I've spoken to, just absolute tremendous, perfect fit for this team. A grinder, a guy who can do multiple things, play multiple outfield positions, contact hitter, fast, can steal bases. Really just fits the prototype of what the Brewers look for. And, pretty cool for him to have been roommates with the Yankees in the Yankees minor league system with Caleb Durbin. He played with Anthony Siegler in the minor leagues, Blake Perkins. So I'm sure that, that's helped his transition coming over to a new team. And, at this point, he's kind of filling a bench role, but, a role that's nonetheless important on any team. And, Pat Murphy had a lot of nice things to say about him as well. So I would think that he'll be, continue to be in the mix here. And we don't know what the situation is right now on Jackson Churio. The last update we got earlier this week was within 2 to 4 weeks, possibly for his return. So, Lockridge will just kind of be, waiting in the wings until then, and then we'll see what happens. But, just another one of those under the radar, quiet acquisitions, as I wrote, barely a ripple on the transaction wire when it happened. I don't think he even made any of the trade wrap-ups on the trade deadline wrap-ups on ESPN.com or MLB.com or anything, but an acquisition nonetheless that the Brewers feel pretty good about.
Todd, this is producer Tommy here, jumping in with a question for you, and it's also talking a little bit more about the pitching side of things. And I wanted to ask about the guys that are kind of in the chamber now, right? We just saw Shelby Miller come and have a great rehab stint with Nashville, and it sounds like Rob Zastryzny moving as well, trying to get back into the major league rotation or in the pitching staff. But I'm trying to look at the corresponding moves that would come with this, because let's say Gasser comes back healthy and they want to have him part of this plan too. Do you have any sort of speculation as to if these three men are to come back? I think we saw Easton McGee already get optioned down, so that's probably the move for Miller. But how do the Brewers construct this pitching rotation down the stretch in your mind, Todd?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting because there's going to be a lot of guys that want to be in the mix, a lot of guys that deserve to be in the mix, but only so many spots, right? The Shelby Miller acquisition is very big from a number of standpoints. Veteran guy, a guy who's got a ton of experience. He's a high leverage guy. He had 10 saves for the Diamondbacks this year. I would expect him probably to be active tonight as the Brewers open up against the Mets in that big series. So that's kind of a no-brainer. The other guys, I think it's a little bit wait and see at this point. And when guys are ready to come back, like let's say Rob Z, for instance, this is a guy that does not have any options. So if you're going to bring him back and put him on the 26-man roster, you've got to be sure that that's a guy that you're going to keep until the end of the season active. And then you've got to start looking at, okay, who is optionable in the bullpen. And there's several of those guys, but the problem is those guys are also pitching well right now. So the Brewers have a need for a lefty. Rob Z does fit that description well and has had success in that role. So it's just there's going to be a litany of decisions that need to be made. And Matt Arnold and his staff, I'm sure, have already kind of worked through all the scenarios. But it's a nice problem to have. Those people, those fans, those of us who follow the team for a long time, 10, 15 years ago, what were the Brewers? It was an organization that did nothing but develop hitters, and pitching was very weak. Now it's almost like the opposite. They have an overabundance of pitching. Always a good problem to have, and I would expect this stuff will be worked out over the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Todd Rosiak from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel joining us here on The Fan, and I tend to agree with you. I think a lot of these position opportunities work themselves out. Whether somebody's banged up or somebody wins a job just by the nature of their play. But one of the players I wanted to ask you about specifically, Todd, he was 11-4 with a 2.66 ERA at the All-Star break. He's now 13-5 with a 3.03 ERA, which is still really good. But since the All-Star break, Freddie Peralta's gone 5.5, 4, and 5 innings. He's never been a long inning guy. He's gone 8 once this year. He hasn't gone 7 besides that. Is there any concern about Freddie falling into old ways, about nibbling, or guys just the teams that they're facing, are they just better at fouling off pitches instead of and does Freddie need to find a way to pitch more into contact and getting guys to get themselves out? Like what do you see going on with Freddie Peralta right now?
Yeah, I mean, all good questions. And after his last start in Atlanta earlier this week, he kind of intimated that he and pitching coach Chris Hook had been working on some things, and it seemed like they were pretty happy with the way that start went, even though it was 5 innings, 108 pitches. Let's be honest, we all know what the book is on Freddie. Not economical. A lot of strikeouts, but also throws a ton of pitches. That eats into innings, and then you got to worry about what you're going to do with the bullpen the rest of the way. He will have games, like you mentioned as well, where, he can get into the 7th inning every so often, the 8th inning. But, to this point, I think Freddie is what Freddie is. And, regardless of the fact that, he does throw too many pitches, He has not been the greatest since coming out of the All-Star break. This is a guy that nevertheless keeps himself healthy, takes the ball every 5 days, beloved in the clubhouse, team first guy. So I think you need to look at the entire picture. Are there other things and areas that could be improved upon? Sure. I mean, you could say that about anybody. But, I would think that, Freddie was going to continue to just roll out there every 5 days. I think hopefully if from his standpoint, those secondary pitches continue to improve and he continues to have confidence in throwing them, because we all know he's going to be fastball Freddie from start to finish. That's never going to change. And we'll see. I would think that down deep inside him, he's got to be raring for another opportunity in the playoffs, because he has not had good showings the past couple of years in the playoffs. So, that professional pride, I think, kicks in a little bit. I would assume that he wants to be firing on all cylinders as the Brewers head down the stretch and head into the postseason.
Todd, one last question for you here, and it's really looking more forward than even past the postseason, maybe into future seasons. I don't know how much you're paying attention to the farm system right now for the Brewers, but do you think Jesus Mate and Luis Pena just took that personally, saying that they can only develop pitchers right now, being the prospects they are in minor league baseball and the start they just got off to with Wisconsin after getting promoted through Carolina? How excited are you to look ahead at those two guys coming up?
Well, how about this? I'll ask them that question in person on Tuesday in Appleton. I'm going up to watch them play.
Yes,
so,
let's go.
And that's like we talked about all this stuff about the major league success the Brewers have had over the years, but hat tip to the farm system as well. I mean, they continue to deal from a position of strength there, and it just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. So I would highly recommend fans, if you're on the fence about going up to Appleton to see those two guys play, get up there and watch them, because they are something else. I was able to see both of them in spring training earlier this year. Looking forward to seeing them up there. And, these two guys are going to be up to the majors. I don't want to say either one of them are on the Churio track, but within the next several years, these guys, I think, are going to be both very important parts of the Major League Brewers moving forward. So exciting times from the Major League level all the way down to the lowest levels of the minors for the Brewers. It's been quite a story.
Todd, you going to grab a pocket pancake on Sunday?
We were watching Murph the other day in the office and at Truist Park, and he had lamb chops. We were joking about pocket lamb chops, and he wasn't going that far. I don't think he had a lot of grease stains in his pockets, but you never know what he's going to pull out. So maybe I'll have to partake. They do sound pretty good.
Nice. Todd Rosiak, Brewers beat reporter, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Todd, thank you so much for taking some time this afternoon to jump on and go through the litany of questions, because the interest in the Brewers is at an all-time high, and to have access to you and the rest of the guys who cover the team is absolutely wonderful for us here in southeastern Wisconsin. So thank you so much for jumping on the air today.
My pleasure, Mitch. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. That is Todd Rosiak from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Follow him on all of the socials for the latest, best Brewers coverage. He is fantastic, and he's great. It's just at Todd_Rosiak, Rosiak. Brewers. He also covers the Panthers basketball teams, so maybe we'll have him on to talk some Panthers hoops in the fall or the winter. But it's it's true, Tommy. It's like it is. I've been in sports radio for a few years here in Milwaukee, and people have obviously been on more consistently than I have been. People have been on for longer than I've been. People have been on for shorter than I've been. And there's never been, even in 18 and 19, when it was a little more star-studded of a Brewers baseball team. But the interest level in 1 through 26 and the farm system. I mean, you asked the question about Mate and Pena, and it's like even the casual fans are starting to know that there are guys in the minors who are amazing, and it's like the excitement level is it's palpable, and it's hard to contain, and it's hard to manage reasonable expectations just because it's so exciting at every level of this organization.
Yeah, I mean, this is maybe it's the best team in baseball with the best farm in baseball right now,
Which
Mitch.
Is crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
as Tommy Wirtz would say, that's crazy.
I think you say that more than me, but I'll take it.
I do now.
Yeah.
I got it from you, but now I've kind of coined it as my own.
But to quote my
You're
good
right.
friend Mitch Thundernellis, that's crazy.
Nailed it. Our thanks again to Todd Rosiak for jumping on the fan guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call. That's all. I've got a whole bunch of like quick hitters. I know we got about we took a little bit longer there because of course we had so many Brewers questions. So we've got a couple shorter segments coming up, but we still have some fun here to have. The Packers are still playing the Jets tomorrow night. The Brewers are still hosting the Mets tonight and tomorrow and Sunday. The leadoff show is still coming up at 6 o'clock this evening with Tommy TK Wirtz. Don't mess with him because he has the best leadoff show, the best pregame show for the Milwaukee Brewers in all the land. Not just in Milwaukee, not just in Wisconsin, but on planet Earth. It is the greatest pregame show there is. He's Tommy Wirtz. I'm Mitch Nellis, a.k.a. Thunder. You're listening to Thunder at the Fair, the Wisconsin State Fair, on The Fan.